Narayanam Narayanam Nirmaskrityam Varam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Ashtapayeshu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shlokya Bhakti Bhakti. Okay, so we are now at the second canto, seventh chapter. Uh, the title for this is Scheduled Incarnation with Specific Functions. And today we will be looking at shloka number 29 till 38. This is a lot to cover today. We'll see how does this go, but we'll have to speed up today because it's quite a bit of verses that were left from the previous session. So we need to cover this as well. So we'll start with the text number 29. I'll read the first shloka, the translation and purport, and next shloka, then people can join in. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you are seeing my screen now.
Yes, we can see.
Great. So let's go to shloka 29. So text 29. Tat karma divyamiva shanvi nishayanam davagni suchivane paridahmane unneshyati vrajamato vasitantakalam netre vidhapya sabalo nadhi gamya viryaha. Translation. On the very night of the day of the chastisement of the Kalia snake, when the inhabitants of Rajbhumi were sleeping carefreely, there was a forest fire ablaze due to dry leaves, and it appeared that all the inhabitants were sure to meet their death. But the Lord, along with Balram, saved them simply by closing his eyes. Such are the superhuman activities of the Lord. Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Gurum Vaishnava Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenavam Gopishwadika Radha Kantam Namaskute Bhakta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavneshwar Krishna Srisi Mani Hari Anchata Chandra Vaishnava Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, purport, let's read. Although in this verse the Lord's activities has been described as superhuman, it should be noted that the Lord's activities are always superhuman. That distinguishes him from the ordinary living being. Uprooting a gigantic banyan or Arjuna tree and extinguishing a blazing forest fire simply by closing one's eyes are certainly impossible by any kind of human endeavor. But not only are the activities amazing to hear, but in fact, all the other activities of the Lord, whatever he may do, are also superhuman, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Whoever knows the superhuman activities of the Lord, due to their very transcendental nature, becomes eligible to enter the kingdom of Krishna. And as such, after quitting his present material body, the knower of the transcendental activities of the Lord goes back home, back to Godhead. So, this verse number 29 is all about the superhuman activities of the Lord. There are quite a few that here are described, like killing of Kalia snake that we are talking about. Then it is talking about the forest fire that appeared. So the activities of Lord are transcendental. It is superhuman, beyond the purview of a human ordinary living being. So let's go and look at some slides that I've prepared. We'll go through it quick, and let's go. So that's the first one. So Prabhupada is clearly saying, you need to understand the superhuman form of the Lord. But the problem with us is that we have a mundane mind and material senses, which are covered by three modes of material nature. And it is very difficult for us to understand the Lord in this situation where our mind and senses are not at all purified. They are typically um, working based on the three modes of material nature. So what do we do this if we have to understand the superhuman form of the Lord? First thing is you need to purify the mind and senses, and that is only possible by devotional services, right? Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu talks about um, devotional service that starts with the faith and ends with the prema. So we need to perform devotional services for us to purify mind and senses so that we can understand the superhuman form. And by doing so, we can understand the transcendental activities of the Lord, which is superhuman form. And only when you do that, Prabhupada says, no one comes back to this material world. So our problem is primarily around our mind and senses, which are not purified, and only through the devotional services where we will be able to understand the Lord. And once this happens, Prabhupada says that no one comes back. That's 4.9 shloka, it says no one is coming back. So this is the way to do it, but only through the devotional services we will be able to understand the form of the Lord, why the Lord performs some such activities, how is it possible for the Lord to do, such superhuman activities in the material world. Otherwise, it's very difficult for us to understand. Okay. Let's go to shloka number 30. So 30 says, Granita yad upabandham amushya matha sulbam sutasya natutad tadamushya mati yajram bhatosya vadane bhuvanani gopi samvikshya samvikshya santika mana pratibodhitasid. Translation. Can someone read the translation and purport?
Yes, Prabhu. When the cowherd woman, Krishna's foster mother Yashoda, was trying to tie the hands of her son with ropes, she found the rope to be always insufficient in length. And when she finally gave up, Lord Krishna by and by opened his mouth, wherein the mother found all the universes situated. Seeing this, she was doubtful in her mind, but she was convinced in a different manner of the mystic nature of her son. One day Lord Krishna, as the naughty child, disturbed his mother Yashoda, and she began to tie up the child with ropes just to punish him. But no matter how much rope she used, she found it always insufficient. Thus he became fatigued, and in the meantime, the Lord opened his mouth, and the affectionate mother saw within the mouth of her son all the universes situated together. The mother was astonished, but out of her deep affection for Krishna, she thought that the Almighty Godhead, Narayana, had kindly looked after her son just to protect him from all the continuous calamities happened to him. Because of her deep affection for Krishna, she could never think that her very son was Narayan, the personality of the Godhead himself. That is the action of Yogmaya, the internal potency of the Supreme Lord, which acts to perfect all the pastimes of the Lord and his different types of devotees, who could play such wonders without being God. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So beautiful. So the two things that are covering here. So we will do both of them, right? So here, Prabhupada is also talking about Lord showing the complete universe in the mouth of Mother Yashoda, and also the inner tying of the rope to Krishna, which is primarily, we all know this is Damodar Leela. So let's cover few of the points that are quite important. So when Krishna opened his mouth, and when Krishna ate the mud, we all know, and then Mother Yashoda told him, "Show me your mouth." It is Bhagavatam specifies, there are 30 things that Mother Yashoda saw in Krishna's mouth. I've just listed some of them, but 30 things were very clearly that she could see. She could see the whole universe. She could see all the directions. Even it is said that she could see all the subtle elements. For example, ahankar is something that, we know all the elements come out of the ahankar, but she could see that ahankar as well. She could see all the demigods, not even the picture. She could also hear the sounds. She could see all the karmas that are there. So she could actually literally see everything that exists within the Lord. And it is said these were 30 things that were included. Now, when the Lord showed Mother Yashoda, why did he show this to Mother Yashoda is because Krishna really wanted to show everything that is part and parcel of himself, which is within him. And that's why he had shown this to Mother Yashoda. Now, a very interesting part also is, if you remember the creation chapter that is there in Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam is all about the Aishwarya Leela of the Lord. And it is said that the Aishwarya Leela really wanted to serve the Lord personally in Vrindavan. And when the Lord opened his mouth and showed all this universes, creations, and other things, it is said that the Aishwarya Leela of the Lord was serving the Lord personally in Vrindavan Dham. There is no way that the Aishwarya Leela can serve the Lord in any way, but then Aishwarya Leela wanted to serve the Lord personally in Vrindavan Dham, and this is how, Krishna's mouth was open and Krishna was able to see, Yashoda Maiya was able to see the full creation within the mouth. So this is one part. Second is, let's look at the Damodar Leela. And here Prabhupada mentions that, when your Mother Yashoda was trying to bind Krishna with the ropes, it was always that the rope was 2 fingers too short. Now, a couple of points from this Leela that we need to pick up is, we work to our best of the abilities, right? We do our endeavors at our best. But at the same time, it all depends on the mercy of the Lord, whether we get success, yes or no. So Mother Yashoda was trying so hard to capture the Lord, and she got tired ultimately. And then, based on Krishna's mercy, your Mother Yashoda was able to tie Krishna with the rope. So there are 2 concepts here. Okay, there is something called Markat Nyaya and Marjar Nyaya. So if you have seen, Markat means baby monkey, right? If you have seen the baby monkey, he puts all his efforts to hold the mother monkey very tightly. So this first part is all the endeavors or all the efforts that you are putting yourself, right? And the second very interesting thing is the marja, the kitten. If you have seen the baby kitten, what does the mother kitten do? She just takes the baby with her mouth and she drags her. Now there is no effort as such from the kitten. So here it says that you have to put all your efforts that are required, but it is up to the mercy of the Lord. When the mercy of the Lord happens, then everything falls in place. So this is a concept that we need to understand. So the first finger that was shot represents the endeavor of a devotee, and the second finger that was shot was Krishna's mercy, right? Krishna's kripa. Without these two, you can't bind Krishna. Okay, and then Krishna cannot be caught by the greatest yogis. We all know this, but he allowed himself to be caught by Mother Yashoda. Krishna cannot be bound by any means, but still he allowed himself to be bound by the ropes by her love. So this is the core concept which comes in the Damodar Leela. Now the question comes is, how is it possible for the Lord to exhibit such features? Right? So there are 2 things that we are seeing here. First is during the Damodar Leela, okay, there are symptoms that the Lord exhibits. Let's read some of them. Quite interesting. This is from the Damodar Ashtakam. Upon seeing his mother's weeping stick, he cried, rubbed his eyes again and again with his 2 lotus hands. His eyes were fearful, his breathing quick, and Mother Yashoda around And as Mother Yashoda bound his belly around his robe, he shivered in fright, and his pearl necklace shook. Now the Lord himself is a fear personified. One who is fear personified is getting afraid of the punishment. And that's a quite um, feature that the Lord is exhibiting, right? And the second one is Mother Yashoda, when she saw that the universe and when Krishna opened his mouth, Mother Yashoda for some time really thought that, what is happening? She just paused for a moment, and she was thinking, what is this happening? And the immediate thought that came to Mother Yashoda was Gargacharya when was predicting Krishna's future. Gargacharya said, predicted that, Krishna will have all the mystic powers and the potencies, with him. And Mother Yashoda was, for a moment she got a thought, is Krishna the Lord? Does he have, specific mystic powers and potencies? But then, the next moment, the other thought came was, no, how can this be possible? Because, when thunder strikes, Krishna comes back running and, hides near, behind me in my saru, in my sari, in my pallu. He does all the plannings and plottings around, stealing the butter. He speaks a lot of lies and stuff. Sometimes he's helpless. So how is this possible that, Krishna will have mystic powers and potencies, and how can this be the Lord? Then the Rishida said, no, this is not at all possible. Okay, this is not what Krishna is. Then, quite interestingly, the concept that Prabhupada puts here is twofold. One is Yogmaya and Mahamaya. So Prabhupada clearly says there are things that are acting with the Yogmaya, and there are things that are acting with Mahamaya. So all the transcendental activities that are happening around Krishna is through the Yogmaya. So Prabhupada just writes here the good writings on Yogmaya is Maya, which acts on the transcendental platform, is called Yogmaya. And Yogmaya is the name of the internal potency that makes the Lord forget himself and become an object of love for his pure devotees in different transcendental mellows. And this is what is happening with Mother Yashoda. Yogmaya is taking over. So she is not at all bewildered with all the activities that Krishna is doing. For Mother Yashoda, Krishna is the same son, same small child. Yogmaya means the mercy of the Supreme Lord, which connects a devotee in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So, even when the devotees are connected to the Lord and they are reciprocating, it is the Yogmaya that is the mercy of the Lord. Any pastime conducted by the Supreme Personality of the Godhead is an arrangement by Yogmaya. So any activities or pastimes that are happening with the Lord, they are arranged by the Yogmaya. And then actually all the activities of the Yogmaya. So Yogmaya only is present in the spiritual sky. Okay. Then the last point is all the pastimes and the activities of the Lord are administered by the Yogmaya. Therefore, he is not under the influence of the material energy as the conditioned souls are. So this is about Krishna, that Krishna, although all the arrangements are done by the Yogmaya, still he is not under the influence of any of the conditioned material energies. Second is Mahamaya. Mahamaya is something that drags a person away from the personality of the Godhead. So this is an internal potency. Yogmaya is an internal potency. However, Mahamaya is an external potency of the Lord, which puts the conditioned souls into an illusion that he will be happy by the material adjustments. So this is where the Yogmaya and Mahamaya is playing. So all the activities that you see where Krishna performs, it is the Yogmaya taking part into it. I'll not go through it, but this is where the references are, where all the Yogmaya references Prabhupada has put into all the purports. I've listed them. We can read that later on, but this is very beautifully saying that everything that happens is happening because of Yogmaya. And these are quite a few that are listed from Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay. Okay. So now the question comes, a very good point is, can Maya, which is Mahamaya, be converted into a Yog Maya? Right? Let's read one of the statements, and that was Prabhupada writing a letter to his disciple Upendra in 1970. Very nicely said. It is known fact that Maya is very strong, but one who associates with Krishna in the above mentioned ways, Maya can show no strength, or Maya converts herself from Mahamaya to Yogmaya. And this is what Prabhupada is mentioning. Prabhupada says we can associate with Krishna in so many ways, right? One, chanting his holy names. Second, by hearing qualities and pastimes of the Lord. Third, by seeing his beautiful form in the Archa deity form. Third, by eating prasadam. Fourth, by contacting devotees. And fifth, traveling to the temples and holy pilgrimage. And after all, by thinking of him within our heart always. So Prabhupada says, if Maya needs to get converted into a Yog Maya, perform these activities. And once you perform these activities, Maya has no strength on its own, and automatically it gets converted from Mahamaya to Yog Maya. Okay, and this is how we need to act. So then Maya will have no strength on us. Okay. So let's go to 31. 31 shloka is Nandam chamokshati bhayat karunasya pashat gopan buleshu pihitan maya sununacha anya pratam nishi shayanamati shramena lokam vikuntam mapuneshyati gokulam sma. Can anyone read the translation and purport?
Sure, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Translation. Lord Krishna saved his foster father Nanda Maharaja from the fear of the demigod Varuna and released the cowherd boys from the caves of the mountain, for they were placed there by son of Maya. Also to the inhabitants of Vrindavana, who were busy working during daytime and sleeping soundly at night because of their hard labor in the day, Lord Krishna awarded promotion to the highest planet in the spiritual sky. All these acts are transcendental and certainly prove without any doubt his godhood. Purport. Nanda Maharaja, the foster father of Lord Krishna, went to take his bath in the river Yamuna in the dead of night, mistakenly thinking that the night was already over. Thus, the demigod Varuna took him to the Varuna planet just to have a look at the personality of Godhead Lord Krishna, who appeared there to release his father. Actually, there was no arrest of Nanda Maharaja by Varuna because the inhabitants of Vrindavana were always engaged in thinking of Krishna. In constant meditation on the personality of Godhead in a particular form of samadhi or trance of bhakti yoga. They had no fear of the miseries of material existence. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that to be in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by full surrender in transcendental love frees one from the miseries inflicted by the laws of material nature. Here it is clearly mentioned that the inhabitants of Vrindavana were extensively busy in the hard labor of their day's work, and due to the day's hard labor, they were engaged in sound sleep at night. So practically they had very little time to devote to meditation or the other paraphernalia of spiritual activities. But factually, they were engaged in the highest spiritual activities only. Everything done by them was spiritualized because everything was dovetailed in their relationship with Lord Sri Krishna. The central point of activities was Krishna, and as such, the so called activities in the material world were saturated with spiritual potency. That is the advantage of the way of Bhakti Yoga. One should discharge one's duty on Lord Krishna's behalf, and all one's actions will be saturated with Krishna thought, the highest pattern of trance in spiritual realization. Jai
So
Srila
this
Prabhupada.
is thank you, Prabhu. So this is what Prabhupada writes on what was the situation of the Rajvasis. You know, every act that was performed with keeping Krishna in the center. Let's look some of the things. Okay, So this is release of Nanda Maharaj. So Prabhupada very specifically mentions that, it was not that Nanda Maharaj was captured by Varuna. No. So Prabhupada mentions that Krishna and his activities are very transcendental, right? And here we need to understand devotees of the Lord are in constant meditation of the personality of Godhead. Prabhupada says that whenever the devotees are engaged in those activities, they are performing a specific kind of a samadhi or trance of bhakti yoga. Prabhupada calls it, yes, these uh, Vrajbhumis, the people of Vrindavan, are performing activities which are similar to a samadhi or trance of bhakti yoga, right? And Prabhupada also mentions that all the actions performed there by them were spiritualized because everything was done in relation to Krishna. So any act that these people were doing was done with Krishna kept in the center. And because they were doing everything around Krishna, all these were spiritualized. Okay. Okay, this was there. Did I mix up the 32 here? Just a moment. Everything was spiritualized. Sorry, this is something that should have not come in here. This is 51. Just give me a moment because there's a slide that I've mixed up. Let's go through it because there is a section that is coming here. Sorry for that. This is something that I have to do. This is not 31, 32. Yeah, so this is 31. Let's go down. There is something that is coming. I might have put the numbers wrong there. So the only way that here Prabhupada is mentioning is that the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they were actually in a specific trance, or they were performing bhakti yoga with Krishna, keeping everything in the center. And any activity that were done were actually getting spiritualized because it was done for Krishna. And that's the way bhakti yoga works. So Prabhupada says we need to take an advantage of that bhakti yoga. We need to discharge our duties on Krishna's behalf, keeping Krishna in the center, and all your material activities will then get converted into the spiritual activities. Okay, let's go shloka 32, which says go गोपेर्मखे प्रतिहते व्रज विप्लवाय देवेभिवर्षति पशुना कृपया विरक्षुः धर्तोच्छिलिन्ध्रमिव सप्तदीनानि सप्ता वर्षो महिद्मन Kare Salilam. Translation. Can somebody read the translation?
Shall I do, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I mean, if no one is there, I can. Yeah, please go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Translation. When the cowherd men of Vrindavana, under instruction of Krishna, stopped offering sacrifice to the heavenly king, Indra, the old tract of land known as Vraja was threatened with being washed away by constant heavy rains for 7 days. Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy upon the inhabitants of Vraja, held up the hill known as Govardhana with one hand only. Although he was only 7 years old, he did this to protect the animals from the onslaught of water. Purport. Children play with an umbrella generally known as frog's umbrella. The Lord Krishna, when he was only 7 years old, could snatch the great hill known as known as the Govardhana Parvata, at Vrindavana and hold it for 7 days continuously with one hand, just to protect the animals and the inhabitants of Vrindavana from the wrath of Indra, the heavenly king, who had been denied sacrificial offerings by the inhabitants of Rajabhumi. Factually, there is no need of offering sacrifices to the demigods for their services if one is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Sacrifices recommended in the Vedic literature for satisfaction of the demigods are a sort of inducement to the sacrifices to realize the existence of higher authorities. The demigods are engaged by the Lord as controlling deities of material affairs. And according to the Bhagavad Gita, when a demigod is worshipped, the process is accepted as the indirect method for worshipping the Supreme Lord. But when the Supreme Lord is worshipped directly, there is no need of worshipping the demigods or offering them sacrifices as recommended in particular circumstances. Lord Krishna therefore advised the inhabitants of Rajabhumi not to offer any sacrifices to the heavenly king Indra. But Indra, not knowing Lord Krishna in Rajabhumi, was angry at the inhabitants of Rajabhumi and tried to avenge the offense. But competent as the Lord was, he saved the inhabitants and animals of Rajabhumi by his personal energy and proved definitely that anyone directly engaged as a devotee of the Supreme Lord need not satisfy any other demigods, however great, even to the level of Brahma or Shiva. Thus, this incident definitely proved without a doubt that Lord Krishna is the personality of Godhead and that he was so in all circumstances. As a child on the lap of his mother, as a boy 7 years old, and as an old man of 125 years of age, in either case, he was never on the level of the ordinary man, and even in his advanced age he appeared a young boy 16 years old. These are the particular features of the transcendental body of the Lord. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhu. Let me just see. This is okay. This is Kuvera. Just let me go down. This is 33. Yeah, and that's 32 then. Okay. So let me just. Okay, so I covered 31 and 32. Yeah, this is correct. So I covered one in the before one, which is 31, which is a release of Nanda Maharaj, and 32 talks about Govardhan Leela. Okay, so here Prabhupada talks about the Govardhan Leela that took place, and a couple of points that we need to take away from this as well from the Leela is three things. One, the Lord is the protector. Only the Lord can protect his devotees, right? When Indra was trying to do everything in Vrindavan as a destruction, the only thing that protected everyone, all the inhabitants of the Vrajbhumi Vrindavan, is that the Lord protected them. Second is, the Lord is the supreme, right? All we need to understand is Krishna possesses all the required energies. Lifting the Govardhan hill, protecting all the Vrajbhumis, Vrajvasis, was done by Krishna's energy, right? Lifting the Govardhan hill is all Krishna. So Krishna possesses all the energy uh, um, uh, that is there. Now, in all the circumstances, right? Now, the third point is reciprocation. When Govardhan Leela took place, for 7 days, there was a reciprocation between the devotees and the Lord one-to-one. So whoever was there in that particular Leela, under the shelter of the Lord, everyone individually found that the Lord is personally reciprocating with him one-to-one. It's not that there are 100 people and Krishna is looking at only one. Everyone, it is said, our Acharya says that everyone who was there in the Leela was thinking that the Lord is only reciprocating with him personally. Okay, so these are three takeaways from the Leela. Now, let's go to the next one, which is why did this Leela happen, right? Two things. First is Krishna wanted to teach Indra a lesson, right? Now, if you all remember, when Krishna saw that, the people of Vrindavan were preparing for the sacrifice for Indra, there were a lot of arguments that happened between Krishna and Nand Baba saying that why are we doing sacrifices for Indra? What are the reasons, right? So there are two things that primarily was spoken, that um, Krishna was trying to explain them on a philosophy called Karma Mimamsa, which says that Krishna was trying to tell them, you don't have to really worry about Indra, because if you work nicely, you will automatically get the result of it. Okay, and he was speaking as an atheist supporting this philosophy, although he's the Lord himself, but he's talking to Nanda Maharaj and saying, okay, look, there's no need of doing all of this. If you work nicely, you will get the results of it. Okay. Then the second argument that Krishna had put was, you need to satisfy the Govardhan hill and the local Brahmanas. That means all the sacrifices that you are doing, you should do it for the Govardhan hill, which is providing food, shelter, everything, and even to the local Brahmanas. And obviously, Krishna wanted to teach a lesson to Indra. So it is said that, sometimes the demigod, they forget their capacity, they forget their who they are, they forget what their position is, and Krishna really wanted to teach Indra a lesson, okay, because he was so puffed up. The second thing was, there are several reasons for discouraging sacrifices performed for Lord Indra. Some of the few of them that are there is, Krishna specifically says that there is no need to worship demigods for any material advancement. Okay, that was the main point that was stressed. It is said all the results deprived from the worship of the demigods are simply temporary. Sorry, derived, not deprived, derived are temporary, and only those who are less intelligent are interested in the temporary results. So Krishna was trying to discourage the sacrifice because of the reason, saying if you are doing it for a demigod, you really don't have to do it, because whatever you get from that demigod worship, it's all temporary. The second point is very interesting. It is said that even if you get the results that derives from the worship of the demigods, it is actually granted by the permission of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. So Bhagavad Gita 7.22 clearly says that even if someone is asking something, or you are worshipping demigods for a certain result, it is obviously me who is granting that permission. Okay, so that's the second reason for discouraging, sacrifice for the demigod worship. And then the final point is, obviously when you are performing any sacrifices, we all know that the sacrifices needs to be performed only for the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, not to the demigods. Okay, let's go to text number 33 now. So text 33 says, okay, Ridan Vaninishi Nishkar Rashmi Goryam Rosan Mukha Rason Mukha Kalapada Murchitena Uddipita Smara Rujam Vrajabhadradhunam Hartur Harishyati Shiro Dhana Dago Gasya. Translation, I'll read it. When the Lord was engaged in the pastimes of rasa dance in the forest of Vrindavan, enlivening the sexual desires of the wives of the inhabitants of Vrindavan by sweet and melodious song, a demon of the name Shankachuda, a rich follower of the treasurer of the heaven Kuvera, kidnapped the damsels, and the Lord severed his head from his trunk. Purport. We should carefully note that the statement described here are the statements of Brahmaji to Narada, and he was speaking to Narada of events that would happen in future during the advent of Lord Krishna. The pastimes of the Lord are known to the experts who are able to see past, present, future, and Brahmaji, being one of them, foretold what would happen in the future. The killing of Shankachuda by the Lord is more recent incident after the Rasa Leela and not exactly a simultaneous affair. In the previous verses, we have seen also that the Lord's engagement in the affairs of the forest fire were described along with his pastimes of punishing of Kalia snake, and similarly pastimes of the Rasa dance and killing of the Shankachuda are also described herein. The adjustment is that all these incidents would take place in the future after the time when it was being foretold by Brahmaji to Narada. The demon Shankachuda was killed by the Lord during his pastimes at Horika in the month of Falguna, and the same ceremony is still observed in India by burning the effigy of the Shankachuda one day prior to the Lord's pastimes at Horika, generally known as Holi. Generally, the future appearances and activities of the Lord or his incarnations are foretold in the scriptures, and thus pseudo incarnations are unable to cheat persons who are in the knowledge of the events as they are described in the authoritative scriptures. So, very important point here is all that appears is actually predicted in the Shastras by the Lord or by incarnation, by his incarnation. So Brahmaji and Naradji are talking about statements that are going to happen in the future. And all these past times are something that is already predicted in the Shastras. Okay. So future appearances and the activities of the Lord or his incarnations are foretold in the scriptures. And anything that happens are already present into these scriptures. So couple of points from this shloka. One is again, so this is, sorry, not the Lord can protect. I would remove this. Yeah, okay, this is correct. The Lord can protect because there is a Lord can protect previously also. Now, in this particular verse 33, Prabhupada talks about a pastime which was Shankachuda, right? So why was this happening? So it is said that wealth and opulence gets you puffed up. So Sankachuda was one of the servants of Kuvera, who obviously got puffed up because he had a lot of opulence in Kuvera, since he is the servant of Kuvera. And because of this, what he did a mistake was he took the damsels of Raja and took it with him. When there were songs going on where the damsels of Raja wanted to be with the Lord. And in that bargain, when he took those damsels, they started calling out the names of Lord Krishna and Balram for the protection. And this is where it is said only the Lord can protect. So when they started calling out the names of Krishna and Balram for protection, obviously the Lord would respond. And in that response, what happened was Shankachura was punished. So Shankachuda had, a valuable jewel which was resembling a conch shell on his particular head. And Krishna, obviously from a short distance, killed Shankachuda, stuck his head with his fist and killed him, and then took the valuable jewel and returned back. So all these future appearances and the activities of the Lord are already foretold in the scriptures, and one of them that is discussed in this shloka is Shankachuda pastime. Okay. Let's go 34 and 35. Okay, so 34 and 35 is Ye cha pralamba karadarura Garura Kesharishtha Malle Bhakamsa Yavana Kapipondarakya Anye cha Salva Kujabhal Balvala Dantavakra sorry Saptosha Sambara Vidurartha Vidurtha Rukmi Mukhya Yeva Mrugir Samiti Shalin Atachapa. Okay. Kambhoja Matsya Kurusranja Kali Kaika Kambhoja Matsya Kurusranjaya Kaikayadhya Yasyanyat Yasyanti Adarshanam Adarshanam Alambala Partha Bhima Vyajahyanena Harina Nilam Tadiyam. So, translation.
I'll read, Prabhu.
Okay.
All demonic personalities like Pralamp, Dhenuk, Bak, Keshi, Arisht, Chanur, Mushtik, Kovalyapid, Hathi, Elephant, Kans, Yavan, Narkasur, and Pandurak, and great marshals like Salva, Divin, Monkey, and Balbal,
Dantavakra.
Dantavakra, the seven bulls, Sambra, Vidurtha, and Rukmi, as also great warriors like Kamboja, Matsya, Kuru, Shrentya, and Kekya, would all fight vigorously either with the Lord Hari directly or with him under his names of Baldev, Arjun, Bhim, etc. And the demons, thus being killed, would attain either the impersonal Brahmajyoti or his personal abode in the Vaikuntha planets. All manifestations in both the material and spiritual worlds are demonstration of the different potencies of the Lord Krishna. The personality of the Godhead, Baldev is his immediate personal expansion, and Bhima and Arjun, etc., are his personal associates. The Lord would appear, and he does so whenever he appears with all his associates and potencies. Therefore, the rebellious souls, like the demons and demonic men mentioned by names like Pralamba, would be killed either by the Lord himself or by his associates. All these affairs will be clearly explained in the 10th canto. But we should know well that all the above mentioned living entities killed would attain salvation either by being merged in the Brahma Jyoti of the Lord or being allowed to enter into the abodes of the Lord called Vaikuntha. This has already been explained by Bhishma Dev, first canto. All persons who participated in the battlefield of the Kurukshetra or otherwise with the Lord or with Baldev, etc., would benefit by attaining spiritual existence according to the situation of their minds at the time of death. Those who recognize the Lord would enter Vaikuntha, and those who estimated the Lord as only a powerful being would attain salvation by merging into the spiritual existence of the impersonal Brahma Jyoti of the Lord. But every one of them would get released from the material existence, since such is the benefit of those who played with the Lord inimically. One can imagine what would be the position of those who devoutly served the Lord in transcendental relationship with him. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Thank you, Prabhu. So this shloka talks about, the Lord appearing with his associates and also killing the demons. And Prabhupada also talks about what happens when these demons are killed by the Lord. What kind of liberations are achieved when this happens? Okay. So this is let's probably this is 34 and 35. Yeah. So this is all about liberation, right? A very beautiful shloka in Bhagavad Gita 4:11 is all about ye tatha mam aprapadyante tam state bhajamyaham mama vartanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. It says all all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respect, O son of Pratha. So here, Prabhupada is talking about liberation. So in this specific verse, it is mentioned that there are two liberations that is talked about. One is a personal liberation, and another is about an impersonal liberation. So if you look at the personal liberations is the demons that are killed sometimes receive the same benefits as the devotees who serve him with love. That's the kind of personal liberation that you get. A very good example of this is killing of Putna, right? So we all know Putna came to offer milk to Krishna with poison on her breast, and Krishna accepted her as her motherly behavior because she wanted to feed Krishna, and only with that intention she was liberated and she was promoted to the spiritual world and got a position of a Dhatri. So that's one kind of liberation that is talked about in this verse, which is a personal liberation. The other liberation that is talked about is an impersonal liberation, which Prabhupada mentions is merging with or becoming one with the Brahmajyoti. And what is this liberation? So if you remember in Mahabharata, there were two parties that were fighting amongst each other. There were a lot of people who did recognize Krishna. Some of them recognized Krishna as the Supreme Lord, and some of them, they did not recognize the Lord as the Supreme while they were fighting. So those people who did not recognize the Lord during the battlefield of Mahabharata are the people who got the impersonal liberation. They just thought the Lord is some powerful person who's just fighting. Okay, they had no understanding of who the Lord is, who Lord Krishna is, and they were just thinking, oh, this is just one person. So those people actually got an impersonal liberation where they got merged into the spiritual existence, into the personal Brahmajyoti of the Lord. So impersonal Brahmajyoti is also one of the effulgences of the Lord. So if you merge into that, then and this is what is an impersonal liberation. So this is what is talked about, that you get a personal liberation and an impersonal liberation when the Lord kills certain demons. Okay. Let's go 36. 36 is Kale Kalena Milita Dhiya Mavamrishendranam Sato Kayusham Swanigamo Batadura Para Avirhitastva Avir Hitasva Nu Yugamsa Hi Satyavakyam Veda Drumam Vitapasho Vibhajishyati Sma.
I'll
Translation.
read, Prabhuji. I'll
Okay,
read,
go
Prabhuji.
ahead. Yeah.
Translation. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The Lord himself, in his incarnation as the son of Satyavati, Vyasadeva, will consider his compilation of the Vedic literature to be very difficult for the less intelligent persons with short life, and thus he will divide the tree of Vedic knowledge into different branches according to the circumstances of the particular age. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Herein, Brahma mentions the future compilations of Srimad Bhagavatam for the short-lived persons of the Kali age. As explained in the first canto, the less intelligent persons of the age of Kali would be not only short-lived, but also perplexed with so many problems of life due to the awkward situation of the godless human society. Advancement of the material comforts of the body is activity in the mode of ignorance according to the law of material nature. Real advancement of knowledge means progress of knowledge in self-realization. But in the age of Kali, the less intelligent men mistakenly consider the short lifetime of 100 years, now factually reduced to about 40 or 60 years, to be all in all. They are less intelligent because they have no information of the eternity of life. They identify with the temporary material body existing for 40 years and consider it the only basic principle of life. Such persons are described as equal to the asses and bulls. But the Lord, as the compassionate Father of all living beings, imparts unto them the vast Vedic knowledge in short treatises like the Bhagavad Gita, and for the graduates, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Puranas, and the Mahabharata are also similarly made by Vyasadeva for the different types of men in the modes of material nature. But none of them are independent of the Vedic principles. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
It is mentioned that Vyasadeva compiled these literatures, and Vyasadeva also is an incarnation of the Lord. And this was done. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I got an internet connection. So Vyasadeva compiled all these literatures with different type of men. He could foresee what is going to happen and what would be the condition of a living entity down the line. So he compiled this literature based on different moods that the men carry, different material nature that the man have. So let's look at the details. So Vyasadeva is Lord's incarnation. So Vyasadeva saw that in Kali Yuga, people would suffer to a great extent. And what were the sufferings that he was actually foreseeing? First, no bodily strength. People will have no faith. They would have reduced lifespans. People would be less intelligent and they would be very unlucky. So looking at all these features, Vyasadeva then said, I need to compile certain literature for these people of Kali Yuga with all these features that you see in here, right? So being compassionate, he wished that he could be able to help the people of Kali Yuga, and hence he divided this Shastra into four Vedas. So four Vedas were given to four of his disciples. Rig Veda was given to Paila Rishi, Sama Veda was given to Jaimini Rishi, Yajur Veda was given to Vishnu Payana Rishi, and Atharva Veda was given to Sumanta Muni, right? And then he also wrote Puranas and gave it to Roma Harshana Sutta for propagation, and to even help the less intelligent people, Vyasadeva also compiled the Mahabharata. So Vyasadeva could clearly see with all these problems, there had to be certain literature that belongs to people who are into a specific mood, into a specific faith, into a specific mode of material nature, and hence he compiled this and he circulated this Vedas accordingly. Okay, let's go to 37 shloka. 37. Devadvisham nagama vartani nishtitan bhumirmayena vihita भीरदृश्य दृश्य तुर्भिः लोकान् घतान् मतिविहो मतिविमो हमतिलोति प्रलोभम वेशम विधाय बहुभाष्य औपधर्म्यम. Translation and purport.
I'll read that.
Okay, good.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. When the atheists are being well versed in the Vedic scientific knowledge, annihilated inhabitants of different planets flying unseen in the sky on well-built rockets prepared by the great scientists Maya. The Lord will belvided their minds by dressing himself attractively as Buddha and will preach on sub-religious principles. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. This incarnation of Lord Buddha is not the same Buddha incarnation we have in the present history of mankind. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Buddha incarnation mentioned in this verse appeared in a different Kali age. In the duration of life of one Manu, there are more than 72 Kali Yugas. And in one of them, the particular type of Buddha mentioned here would appear. Lord Buddha incarnates at a time when the people are most materialistic and preaches common sense, religious principles. Such ahimsa,
Ahimsa.
such ahimsa is not a religious principle itself, but it is an important quality for persons who are actually religious. It is a common sense religion because one is advised to do no harm to any other animal or living being, because such harmful actions are equally harmful to he who does the harm. But before learning these principles of nonviolence, one has to learn two other principles, namely to be humble and to be prideless. Unless one is humble and prideless, one cannot be harmless and non-violent. And after being non-violent, one has to learn tolerance and simplicity of living. One must offer respects to the great religious preachers and spiritual leaders, and also train the senses for controlled action. Learning to be unattached to family and home, and enchanting devotional service to the Lord, etc. At the ultimate stage, one has to accept the Lord and become his devotee. Otherwise, there is no religion. In religious principles, there must be God in the center. Otherwise, simple moral instructions are merely sub-religious principles, generally known as upadharma or nearness to religious principle. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So Prabhupada is saying Lord Buddha will appear, and Jiva Goswami says this is not the Buddha that we think of. The Buddha that would appear is within one particular type of Kali Yuga he would appear. And Prabhupada says ahimsa is not a religious principle, right? Prabhupada says it is actually a good quality, but it is not a religious principle. But Prabhupada talks about the other two principles that we should talk about. So actual religious principle Prabhupada talks about is humbleness and prideless. So if you are humble and prideless, you will not be harmless and non-violent. So first is, before you reach to the sub-religious principle of ahimsa, Prabhupada says we need to become humble and prideless, right? And then Prabhupada says you need to then go to the next quality, acquire the next quality, which is tolerance and simplicity. And then it is said that when you in that process, then when you respect the great religious preachers and spiritual leaders, you start training your senses after that. And once you do that, you will have to perform devotional services to the Lord. And once you perform devotional service to the Lord, you have to accept the Lord and his devotees. So that's the actual religious principle, that you have to start with humbleness and prideness, practice tolerance and simplicity, respect your religious preachers and spiritual leaders, control your senses or train your senses, start performing devotional services to the Lord. And once you start performing devotional service to the Lord, then you accept the Lord and become his devotees. Once you get this is the actual religious principle. Ahimsa is one of the qualities that Prabhupada talks about, but that Prabhupada says this is not religious, this is sub-religious. But this is the actual religious principle that is mentioned in this particular purport, in this shloka. Okay. Let's go 38. Okay, 38 says, Arhi alashye api satamna harer kathasyo पाषाण्डिनो द्विजजना वृषलान्द्रवेदा स्वाहा स्वधा वषडिति स्मर गिरो न यत्र शास्ता भविष्यति कलेर भवान युगान्ते. Translation and purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Should I read?
Yeah, Mataji, yes, you can. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada ji, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, at the end of Kali Yuga, when there exist no topics on the subject of God, even at the residences of so-called saints and respectable gentlemen of the three higher castes, and when the power of government is transferred to the hands of ministers elected from the lower born Shudra class or those less than them, and when nothing is known of the techniques of sacrifice, even by word, at that time the Lord will appear as the supreme chastiser. Purport. The symptoms of the worst conditions of the material world at the last stage of this age, called Kali Yuga, are stated herein. The sum and substance of such conditions is godlessness. Even the so-called saints and higher caste of the social orders, generally known as the Dvijajanas or the twice born, will become atheists. As such, all of them will practically forget even the holy name of the Lord and what to speak of his activities. The higher caste of society, namely the intelligent class of men guiding the destinies of the social orders, the administrative class of men guiding the law and order of the society, and the productive class of the men guiding the economic development of the society, must all be properly well versed in the knowledge of the Supreme Lord, knowing factually his name, quality, pastimes, entourage, paraphernalia, and personalities. The saints and the higher caste or orders of the society are judged by their proportion of knowledge in the science of God or Tattva Gyan, and not by any kind of birthright or bodily designations. Such designations, without any knowledge of the science of God and practical knowledge of devotional service, are considered to be all decorations of dead bodies. And when there is too much inflation of these decorated dead bodies in society, they develop so many anomalies in the progressive peaceful life of the human being. Because of the lack of training of culture in the upper section of the social orders, they are no more to be designated as the Dvijajanas or the twice born. The significance of being twice born has been explained in many places in these great literatures. And again, one is reminded here with that birth executed by the sex life of the father and the mother is called animal birth. But such animal birth and the progress of life on the animal principles of eating, sleeping, hearing, and mating, without any scientific culture or of spiritual life, is called the Shudra life. Or to be more explicit, the uncultured life of the lower class of the godless laborer classes of men, and thus the Devas or the ministers or the government, will be the Vrishlas or the uncultured lower class men of society. No one can expect any peace and prosperity in a human society full of duty of the leaders of men to take note of society full of uncultured lower classes of men. The symptoms of such uncultured social animals are already in vogue, and it is the duty of the leaders of men to take note of it and try to reform the social order by introducing the principles of twice born men trained in the science of God consciousness. This can be done by expanding the culture of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. In the degraded condition of human society, the Lord incarnates as the Kalki Avatara and kills all the demonic without mercy. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So Prabhupada is very beautifully talking about what would happen when the Kali Yuga, last stage of Kali Yuga comes in. And Prabhupada specifically mentions about, the Dvija Bandhus, people who are Dvija Bandhus are actually people who are like twice born, the Brahmanas. And Prabhupada talks about, how the degradation is happening, will happen in the Kali Yuga. So people would not be interested in the science of God. Rather, they would be more interested on their bodily designations, and other things. So Prabhupada says that there has to be a society that needs to have a proper order set, and that is only possible, through the propagation or reading scriptures, or through expanding the culture of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. Prabhupada also mentions that yes, there will be a stage where people would be just involved into um, the activities which Prabhupada clearly mentions would be, people with low-grade activities, and he names some of them. And at the last, obviously, Prabhupada is mentioning that since the age of Kali advances and we'll have all the problems, it would be the Kalki avatar who would come actually and kill all the demoniac people without mercy. So the Lord will appear as Kalki. Obviously, people would be very degraded. There's a big description in Srimad Bhagavatam on, what would be the life that would be led by the people when Kali Yuga actually approaches. But a few points just to note here is, at the time, at the end of Kali Yuga, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will appear on the earth and he will come to rescue the religion. Second important point is, it is predicted in the scriptures that Lord Kalki will appear as son of Vishnu Yasa in the village called Sambhala. That's the prediction that is done. Third point is, Lord Kalki, the Lord of the universe, will ride a swift horse called Devadatta. With his sword in his hand, he will travel over the earth, showing his power. Glowing with his effulgence, he will ride with great speed and kill millions of thieves who have pretended to be kings. So this is one of the things that Prabhupada is also talking, that people who are not performing their duties well, once they are degraded, this would be the result. It is also said that there will be refreshing spiritual breezes that carry the sweet smell of the Lord's sandalwood paste and flowers. After the demon kings have been killed, the people in the cities and the towns will become purified by feeling these breezes. And the last point is, when with Lord Kalki's appearance, Kali Yuga will end and Satyuga, the golden age, will begin. In Satyuga, people live to a very old age and are very saintly. The earth will produce all sort of wonderful fruit, flowers, and will provide that everyone needs. So that's the last part. Prabhupada says, yeah, there would be degradation. People will not perform their duties. And at the last, this would be the end result, that the Lord will appear as Kalki Avatar and will destroy everything that is there. Yeah. I think that was this. And then the last slide is 39. So that's the last shloka for the day. 39, it says, Sarge tapo hama vrishyo navaye prajesha sthane tadharmama makha manva ama sorry sthane tatha dharma makha manva amara ante adharma haramanyu vasasuradha maya vibhutaya ima purushakti bhajaha. I'll read it, last one.
Prabhuji,
You want to read?
it
Yes.
kept for till 38. Is it okay?
Oh, is it? I
Yes,
did not
Prabhuji.
see. Oh, was it 38? Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
I thought 31 is 39 is also there.
No, it was 38.
Okay, it was 30. Then I'll not do that. 39. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for the class. I'm okay for any open questions, any suggestions. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you very much. Quite a short amount of time and many verses, but you still covered it with some time left. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhu. Any
Yeah.
questions,
Hare
anybody?
Krishna, Prabhuji, just a small question. Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Prabhuji, very nice class and all
Yeah.
the details we have given with the presentation.
Yeah.
In Kali Yuga, like it is said in this verse, in last verse, that not the the Bhagwan will appear at the end of Kali Yuga.
Hmm.
So, like in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in between now. So somebody else like Bhagwan can come in some incarnation in between also, or it is like in the end only now Bhagwan will take avatar.
This specific avatar of Kali is only at the Kali Yuga. So we are in the Kali Yuga, right? Kali Yuga
Yes.
lifespan is 432,000 years, right? And out of which 5,000 years, around 5,000 years have already been passed, right? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yes, came. Kalki avatar will appear only at the end of Kali Yuga, and after the Kali Yuga, the Satyuga needs to start, right? So
Yes.
the Kalki avatar comes at the last and then kills all these miscreants who were there, and this is at the end of the Kali Yuga. Okay.
Yes. So in between,
Hmm.
there's nothing, nowhere it's written that again, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, any other incarnation, God, Bhagwan will take, they
So
come
so
on this
Ma
earth.
No, so Mataji, what happens? Even prediction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is within the cycle. So during the 4 yugas, it is predicted that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also appears only once. So
Huh.
during this lifespan of all the 4 yugas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears as once.
Correct.
That's
Yes.
what is there.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes, understood.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful. Any other question, Prabhuji's, Mataji's?
Yeah, one question, sir. You mentioned in Krishna's mouth, his mother was able to see even Ankar. Just wondering whether Ankar also has a form.
Yeah, so what happens? It's a subtle form, but it is said. I was hearing a lecture yesterday, very nice. She could see that Ahankar, and it is said that from Ahankar comes. But looks like that when it is said that she could even see subtle elements, it looks like yes, there was something around that also. It is not mentioned anywhere, but I have heard in the lectures that even the subtle elements were seen. For example, directions. You can't see the direction, right? She could still see the directions, right? She could even see all the subtle elements that were there. So yes, they were there, they exist, but in what form we don't know. But yes, she was able to see those, and that's the only details that I have heard so far.
So from the perspective of creation, all of these are elements which are created by the combination of certain other previous elements. And when the creation happens, even if they are subtle, they still do carry a form. Like, for example, Akash. Akash is like a subtle element, right? But still, Akash can be seen. So these
Yeah.
these elements, basically, they are personalities. They take up a certain form or a certain service in order to serve Krishna. So, like for example, Himalaya. We may think that Himalaya बात कैसे कर सकता है? Himalaya's daughter is Parvati Mata. How is it possible? But Himalaya, he as a person has taken the form of a mountain in order to serve Krishna in some or the other manner. The subtle elements also have a form. It's just that for our material eyes, it's not so simple to see them. Hare Krishna. Great. Prabhu, thank you very much. Many thanks for the wonderful class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In this connection, I just want to add this. Everything is coming from Bhagwan only. Now that even good things and bad things, all are coming from God only, from the Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, correct. So let's do Vaishnav Pranam to everybody before we end the class. Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvescha patitanam
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Yo namo namah.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Thank you.